Today we are going to work on Unit 1 review for geometry. So we're going to go ahead and do the We Do section together. Make sure that you copy all of this down so you understand how to do your section, which is the You Do. Okay, so first we're going to start with number 1. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of KR if K equals this. So what did they give us so far? They told us that here is K and here is R, and we are looking for the midpoint. The formula for midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2. So you're going to add your x's, divide by 2, and you're going to add your y's and divide by 2. So we're going to go ahead and label our points. We have an x1, point 1, y1. Then we have an x2, y2. So we're going to add our x's together and divide by 2, and then we'll add our y's together and divide by 2. So our x's are 4 plus negative 2 over 2, and then the y's are 3 plus 8 over 2. Okay, so when we add those together for the x's, 4 plus negative 2 over 2 turns into a positive 1. 3 plus 8 over 2 turns into a 5.5 or 11 over 2. Pause the video if you need to, but we're going to continue on. Okay. Number 3. On a number line, which number is 7/9 of the way from negative 3 to 6? Okay. So there's a formula for this. Our formula is x1 plus m over n, absolute value of x2 minus x1. And I'm going to tell you to make sure that your answer is between negative 6 and 3. If it's not between negative 6 and 3, then we've done something wrong. Okay, we're going to call this x1. We're going to call this x2. This is just a straight number line. There is no y value. Okay, so x1 plus our fraction is m over n. Okay, so 7 over 9. The absolute value of 3 minus negative 6. You may put this in the calculator just the way it is, or negative 6 plus 7. 3 minus negative 6 is 3 plus 6, it's 9. And remember that the absolute value just means that whatever number you get there, you're going to turn it into a positive number. Okay? Now when we type that in our calculator, we get that 7/9 of the value ends up being at 1. Okay? Number 5, given 3 points, x, y, and z, and y is the midpoint of xz. Guys, we're just finding it's just worded differently, but we're still looking for y, and y is the midpoint. So we just jump back to that same formula we just did a little while ago. We are going to add our x's. So I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to add our x's and divide by 2, and then add our y's and divide by 2. So for our x's, we have negative 2 plus 6 over 2. And for the y value, we have 6 plus negative 4 over 2. The midpoint is equal to 2 and 1. And I would graph a little, a graph if you need to, just to help you make sure that you're approximately in the middle. It looks like you're in the middle, then you should be doing okay. Okay. Which ones of these statements are true? Which ones of these statements are false? So each one of these needs a true or false. Points A, B, C are coplanar. Where are A, B, and C? A, we have A in the back corner, A, B, and C. Are those part of the same plane? They are. They're part of that back plane. This is true. Okay. Now, coplanar means on the same plane. That means you can have a flat surface that goes through all three at the same time. Collinear means they're on the same line. That means I can draw one line that goes through them. G, H, and I. Can I draw one straight line that goes through all three of those points? I cannot. Okay? They are not collinear. Those blue points that I highlighted are coplanar, but they are not collinear. Okay. Now let's look for IAG. Okay. Where are I, A, G? Are I, A, and G coplanar? Is there a flat surface that goes through all three at the same time? There is not. Okay. So part of this is just knowing your definitions, okay? And the last one is going to be F, J, E are collinear. Are F, J, and E on the same plane or same line? Here's F, here's J, here's E. Can I make one line that goes through all three of them? I can. And so the last one is true. Okay, so those two definitions, you need to know what they mean. Okay. Question number 9. Find the coordinates of point K if K is the midpoint. Guys, there's so much midpoint on this. The midpoint. So midpoint again. We're going to add our x's, divide by 2. And then we'll add our y's and divide by 2. Okay, so I'm going to find that midpoint. I plugged in my x values. I plugged in my y values. I now have, if I add the x's and divide by 2, and if I add the y's and divide by 2, this is my midpoint. There's lots of midpoint, okay? What about distance? So this wants the distance between G and H. First thing we're going to do is write down the distance formula. Okay, now I wrote down that distance formula. Now guys, we're going to plug all this in by hand, but because we're taking the square root, we do need to rely on a calculator for this, okay? So let's plug in what we know. We have x1 and we have y1. Remember, these are the first ordered pairs. x2, y2 is the second ordered pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in those numbers. And it's a big square root. Parentheses, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's the only step I need to see on paper, and then you can type it into your calculator. Unfortunately, I can't show it here what it looks like on a calculator, but remember, you're going to do Control x squared, the x squared button, and when you put that, you're going to get the square root, and just make sure everything is underneath your square root, and the answer is the square root of 10, but because it says to round to the thousands place, we're actually going to put 3.162 is my final answer. And this is rounded, okay? Now we're going to jump back to midpoint, but this one's a little tiny bit different. This is find the coordinates of the missing endpoint. Okay, so you know that we've been adding up our x's and dividing by 2, and that would give us the x midpoint, okay? And we've been doing the same thing for the y's. We've been adding the y's together and dividing by 2 to find the midpoint. So let's label what we have. Now remember, this one's a little bit trickier. They said, hey, we've given you n, we've given you P, and we want you to find Q. So this time they gave us the midpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and color coordinate everything. What they've given us so far is an ordered pair, x1, y1. Okay, so if I were to highlight those, here's x1. Where does x1 go? Right there. Okay, so then they gave us a y1. Where does y1 go? Right here. And then we know what the midpoint is. So a little bit trickier. They gave us the midpoint of x, and they've given us the midpoint of y. So even if we color coordinate those again, the midpoint of x is going to actually go right here. The midpoint of y is going to go right here. Now, we do not know x2, y2. That's what this whole problem is trying to do, is to find those points. So we know so far, we know that the midpoint of x is equal to, I'm going to plug in right here. That's going to be equal to 5. And it's equal to x1 is 2. I don't know what x2 is, so I'm going to plug that in here. Now I want to solve for the x2. I want to find for that second point. I want to get rid of the divide by 2. Okay, by multiplying. And now I'm going to subtract this 2 on both sides. So I have found that my second ordered pair is going to start with an 8. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the second one. Let's go plug in what we know. We know that the midpoint of y is 2. There's a lot of 2's here. Sorry, guys. We know that y1 is 0. Remember, we're coming back here. y1 is 0. We don't know y2, so we leave that there. Okay? How do I get rid of a divide by 2? I multiply by 2. 4 equals. Now, guys, what does 0 do? I don't have to subtract 0 from both sides. This is already my answer. Okay? So my final answer is 8, 4. Rewind this video if you have to right there to make sure you guys understand that one. This will be on the test for sure, okay? Number 15 lists the terms that are undefined in geometry. This is a little bit trickier, but we kind of talked about these on our vocabulary words. Points, lines, and planes are undefined. Because how do we explain them? How do we explain a point, a line, or a plane? We always say things like, they lie on the same plane, they lie on the same line. These are considered undefined, okay? Even though, yes, we can call a point, oh, point A, but in general, a point is undefined, okay? And you'll do the defined on your own. And all we have left is these 3 questions, okay? So, question 17, points x, y, z are collinear. Guys, I just like to draw what that means. X, y, z means are on the same line, okay? And it says point y is in between them, okay? What it told us is it says that xy is equal to 2x. And it says yz is equal to x plus 2. But this whole thing is equal to 5x minus 10. Okay, so if I add these 2 pieces together, if I add the 2 pieces, 2x plus x plus 2, it should equal to the whole line. So it's going to equal to 5x minus 10. And our goal is just to solve it. Go ahead and add like terms, 2x plus 1x. Okay, we can move our variables to the left. Then we're going to move our constants, our numbers to the right. We can go ahead and subtract 2 from both sides. And then we can divide both sides by -2. And -12 divided by -2 is a +6. And we could plug it in to make sure it's correct. It is going to work out. Okay, so 2 more questions. Rewind that if you have to. Okay, now we're going to do some of these vocabulary terms that we've been talking about. Now we are going to fix a typo. This should be SQ. Okay. SQ is an angle bisector. We learned that an angle bisector means that it's going to cut the angle in half to 2 congruent pieces. So this gave us that PQS. Now follow this. PQS S. So this angle right here is equal to 3x plus 13. Okay? And then it said that SQT, follow along, SQT means this angle right here is equal to 6x minus 2. Angle bisectors cut the angle in half to 2 equal segments. So because these segments are supposed to be congruent, we can actually set them equal to each other. Now this problem just wants us to solve for x. We're going to move our x's to the left. Then we're going to move our constants to the right. That means move our numbers to the right. We end up with negative 3x equals negative 15. Divide by negative 3 on both sides, and x equals 5. And luckily, it just said find x. If they want us to plug it back in, we can plug it back in here. We can plug it back in here. These two pieces will be equal to each other. Now, the last question we are going to do together. Ready? It says that PTQ, so PTQ means this angle right here is equal to 3x plus 12. And then it says that QTR, and we can't say these are equal, we don't know yet, is equal to 5x plus 6. Find the value of x so that TR is perpendicular to TS. What does it mean to be perpendicular? That means that this equals 90 degrees. And guys, since that is a straight line, since this right here is a straight line, 180, if this piece equals 90, that means all of this right here equals 90. Okay? So if I add the two angles that it gave me, those two angles make a right angle. So we're going to set this equal to 90. Combine like terms. Okay. Now we're going to solve by subtracting 18 from both sides. 8x equals 72. Divide by 8 on both sides, and we get x equals to 9. And if we plug them back in, they are not equal to each other, but if I plug it back in and add them together, they do come out to 90 degrees, okay? Make sure you write all of this down, rewind if you have to, make sure you understand it, and hopefully this helps you be successful on your test. Have a great day.